Hey guys! Hi
Hey
Martin,
guys.
hi Alan.
Hello! How are you
Lovely
doing?
to see you, Martin. Great to have you with us. I just want to say I'm so excited, and I know Katie is equally as excited for me to have this special guest here today. Martin Johnson, I think, for me certainly, has been a huge inspiration in my cello playing career. He is not only, the leader of the National Symphony Orchestra. Never heard him mess up a solo in his life. He's like some kind of Jedi. He literally is a recitalist, a chamber musician. He does everything he does with absolute, the want for things to be amazing. And that's why I love working with him as a colleague, because he's always pushing to get that moment in life that we're all striving for in everything we do. Never lose it, Martin. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so great to have you with us.
Absolutely. I mean, I had the privilege of sitting behind Martin. He was my boss in the RTE Symphony Orchestra for about 5 years. And just on a nearly daily basis, I was like always amazed by something he was doing. I'd just be sitting back there and be like, God, how does he get his spiccato so clean on there? Oh, how does he do that? It's just so amazing to have you do this with us. And it's, what a great time to do it too.
Woo, woo,
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. If I need a new PR agent or a PR agent at all, I'm coming looking for you two to do it for me. Great job. So it's funny, from my end of the telescope, I don't see it like that at all. I see us, the three of us, on a level playing field. I respect everything that you guys put out, and you're so hard working. I feel sort of vaguely ashamed about your work ethic, the two of you. And I'm quite happy to sit at home drinking tea,
We've had, actually,
your life, Martin.
Ailbhe and I have had a number of conversations about you, Martin, how you're like the most hardworking person. We're like, how does he do all that? How does he teach all those students? And I know everything's different now because of COVID, but like pre-COVID, I was like, how does he prepare all that stuff? You're so organized. Anyway.
Actually, the organisation is the only way to do it, and I'm sure we've all learned the hard way about that. Coming cropper from not doing enough slow practice, or maybe you've given yourself a tricky gig the night before, and then something doesn't go your way the next day. So all these sort of things. And the older you get, the more carefully you have to plan it. You can't rely on your youthful exuberance to just smash through the next day.
So you're very old, Martin, compared to us.
Yeah, totally.
Asians, so
Exactly.
Thank God we've got youth on our side, right?
Let's get it out of the way right now. I'm 45. I know I look 65, but I'm actually 45. So there we go. That's out of the way. You can find that out on the internet.
Ahead of us. Not so far ahead of us. That's
yeah. But I've been doing that job at the pointy end of the section, as it's called, since 2005 was the first time I sat there permanently, and never sat further back. So actually, it's been some great times, some scary times, some super dangerous times. But if you'll allow me to reminisce for a minute, some of the great moments for me personally in the symphony orchestra, we used to have this guy called Gerhard Markson as the principal conductor, and he was a super duper mentor, really hard working, super organised guy, a great musician, really fantastic, total inspiration. And the first year in that job, I don't know whether he was trying to break me or was trying to make me, but he programmed every single massive cello solo in the repertoire it started with something like Shostakovich First Symphony, this big long solo on the second last page just seems to never stop. And then Shostakovich 15, of course, that's the solo of Nightmares, wake up in cold sweats.
I'll never forget when we did it. I was like floored by your performance of that when we did it. I was in the orchestra.
Did you see me put the bit of rosin on that Ailbhe was talking about, so I knew where the top note was? But the main one, the most enjoyable time, I think, playing the solos in that orchestra is nearly always the Brahms second piano concerto. It's such beautiful writing. And then when we get to letter D, we're on this moment here, just to make it like crystal or something. It's just a fantastic moment, and it's also dangerous, but somehow you have to kind of transcend that danger and just keep going forward. My only regret with Brahms' second piano concerto is because the solos in the third movement I'd like to one day, before I retire, sit in the number 2 chair or even further back, so that I can enjoy the first 2 movements. Because they're wonderful movements, but I just spend the whole time like waiting for them. So
those composers who put those, ridiculous solos at the end of the piece, they could at least be decent
I know.
at the beginning, so you can relax for the rest,
Rude. The only exception is William Tell,
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say.
Yeah, the number of. Yeah, William Tell every day of the week. I mean, the number of concerts that I've had to start. We've all been there. Let's return to that youthful exuberance statement. Maybe at New Year's Eve, you've had a few too many glasses of champagne, and you're feeling a bit wobbly. And maybe you're a bit too hot when you go into work to do the New Year's Day concert, and then you open the folder and the first page is William Tell, and you've got to start the concert. The first notes of the whole year for the orchestra is when you really just don't feel like it at all, So, in fact,
that's
the
what
last
makes you a pro, Martin.
In fact, the last time we did it in the orchestra, you two both were in the section. I remember that day.
Yes,
and
I will never forget this.
There was some sort of restoration work happening in the National Concert Hall.
Oh yeah.
I will never forget it.
And this drilling just going on in the background, and I'm thinking, oh my word, this is awful. And all you can do is think about your teacher saying, if the ceiling falls in, you've got to keep playing. You've just got to do it. And you never think that's actually going to happen. But that day I thought, well, maybe today's the day.
I'm going to give you a laugh, Martin. I actually was talking to a girl who did her Leaving Cert exam, and the school was pretty run down. And the ceiling actually fell in the middle of her exam. It literally fell in, and the examiner and the student were in the room on their own. And the kid kept singing because she was told, if the ceiling falls in, you keep going. And the examiner was like, stop, we're unsafe, we have to run. I just thought, that's classic, You'll never hear that ever happening again.
Brilliant. Now, we've got in the repertoire coming up, if we ever actually get back to work, hopefully we will soon, in the repertoire coming up, we've got the Hinastera variations for orchestra, which is basically a cadenza for each instrument, for a smallish orchestra. And it starts with the cello with harp accompaniment. Again, it's all a bit like Shostakovich 15, lots of high stuff, bar and a half in one bow, this sort of get to the end without making a pig's ear of it. And I was talking with my old teacher, Andrew Schulman, online. We were just having a bit of a conversation, and he's the principal in LA Chamber Orchestra, where Ailbhe is the principal as well, principal conductor. And he said they were sitting on stage in the Hollywood Bowl, and it was just about to start this, the cello just gets going. And he said there was a small earthquake.
Oh God!
And he said that the whole place just, all the audience just vanished, and and all he could think was, and I haven't even played anything, and they've left, So what do you ladies think about this Popper 30 then?
Well, it's kind of a fascinating piece, isn't it? I mean, how often do you come across something in G flat major?
Yeah.
I mean, not very often.
That's almost a reason just to learn it, isn't it? To get used to playing in that key.
Definitely.
Yeah, and also to realise that it's not really as scary as it seems. Like, people have these weird ideas about, oh God, why is this in D flat major or G? People have this weird association. And often with singers, if you're doing those kind of pops concerts, you're going to find all of these keys.
Lots of weird keys.
So you kind of have to just get used to it.
Tell me, as a multi-level musician that we all know you are, but why do you think that ballet dancers have to dance in 6 flats? Why is that?
Well,
I know which
I
solo
did
you're
ballet.
thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not just that. It's not Swan Lake. It's nearly every difficult moment in every ballet ever.
Yeah.
It has to be in 5, 6 flats. Why is that?
Because the key sounds different, so it produces a different emotion when they're dancing. Right?
It produces a different emotion in me. I know that much.
Yeah, I think that's the point, though, right? Because they're trying to create some. Composers do that.
They're just trying to create suffering.
Uncomfortable. Yeah.
Maybe they are. Maybe they're writing in that tension or something.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that C flat. It's not. If you've written just go for a B natural, you play it every day of the week. You look at C flat on the page, you go,
Yeah.
There's definitely tension there, for sure.
There's no need for that kind of malarkey, actually, of any kind. There's just accidentals all over this piece. Every note from the second half on seems to have an accidental. You know?
Yeah, you do get used to sort of just reading them all when you do this. I mean, it would be great prep whenever you're doing some sort of even weird modern stuff that has like, you know, double flats and quarter tones and stuff. I think just to get your head around the constant extra information.
I remember years ago, maybe Peter Dixon, you know, Peter from BBC, maybe he would confirm this, but there was I remember applying for a rank and file job there when I was straight out of college, you know, and they didn't send many excerpts. It was 4 or 5, but one of them was a movement of a Hindemith symphony, which and there was an accidental, and it looked like Popper 30, you know, and there was an accidental on every single note, double flats, double sharps, all of that. I remember thinking, oh, this is above and beyond. Maybe I'll do something else for a career, you know.
Wow.
But
I mean, you know, it's interesting you mentioned like orchestral pieces, because I think this is a great preparation for, you know, there's so many like passages in, you know, orchestral repertoire where you're looking for patterns so that you can actually like learn it and play it and not have it take up your entire life. I mean, like Nielsen symphonies and stuff like that. I've mentioned Nielsen symphonies before with Ailbhe, but I think this is such a great study for, just getting used to finding patterns and not being so obsessed with actual pitches on the page, but how you can learn it more quickly.
That's definitely where the lesson is, isn't it? Because in some ways, once you've learnt it and you can perform it, the journey is stopped with that piece. The learning process is actually the whole value of the study rather than the end result. You know,
that's what we're telling ourselves anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, for example, in my class, my students, I don't often remember hear them play the whole study all the way through. You know,
me too.
I don't know how you guys approach it yourselves, but when all the Popper studies are hard, whatever level you're at, the next one you've got to learn is always harder than the level you're at. Although there's no point in going forward, is there? You know, so it doesn't matter who you are, but or what level in the class. I recommend to them that they draw a bracket round. They look through it and draw a bracket in the margin of what looks like the most horrendous bits. You know, so maybe you've got 2 or 3 lines here and a couple of lines at the top of the next page and a bit more, and then just to focus on those 3 areas. Get those really down, so that when you arrive there, they're not the difficult bits anymore. They're the easy bits. They're the familiar bits. So and then you can go back to the beginning and play past them.
So in this study, I'd say we all probably, as far as just organisation of the left hand, I would say that the second line, anytime that it gets into that yada da 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 da, the dancey section to it, that maybe the last 3 lines are pretty tricky for tuning, particularly with that thumb shifting, and thinking about, you know, they would have been my places specifically that I would have had to take out, and some of the rest of it just might have played itself once you'd done a few. Now, I mean, I just said that, didn't I? So it means I'm gonna die.
steady. Let's not encourage people too far, you know.
What I meant was after all my, you know, my intervallic training, you know. That's fine. But
yeah. And there's some surprisingly easy-looking, difficult bits as well, I find. In this one, a few little stumbling blocks. I mean, for example, if we're looking at you guys, have got bar numbers, yeah.
No, but Firehead will.
No, but Fire On will.
Yeah.
You don't have bar numbers. How do you organise your lives without bar numbers?
With you, Martin, we ask you to come in and you'll tell us the bar number.
Okay, take out your pencils. Line 2 is bar 5. Okay. Anyway,
some things never change. Some things
never change. Oh my goodness!
Like back in RT.
Now you're going to tell me you don't have a pencil, aren't you? That's the next.
No,
thing.
I've got a pencil.
It's here somewhere.
No, I was thinking that really funny bit. It looks like nothing on the page, but the top of the second page. It sort of looks easy. Everybody has this IMC version, give or take. And look at the finger, we're going, what? And that's painful, and it's never in tune, you know, unless I'm super duper slow. So I'm thinking, well, there must be a better version than this. And it actually took quite a while. I mean, makes me sound like a bit slow, but to come up with this little shuffle thing to try and stay in the same position as long as possible. And then a small shuffle. This sort of thing.
Oh, right.
I find it just sort of goes past smoothly now, whereas before it always felt like there was a hiccup somewhere with some funny shift. I have the same problem with actually the next phrase. I found the printed this 4. I couldn't live with that at all.
Yeah, I was doing, because I thought, actually, in fairness, we've come across a few dubious fingerings in this edition as we go along, and we've been discussing whether we should learn how to use those, or what we should do with it. And I'm definitely in favour of bin things that don't feel comfortable for your hand, because you have to acquire skills that you can use for the rest of your life, not a skill that was good for someone else, I suppose. So for there, I found I had to kind of use a bit more extension and be a bit more, crab-like around that area for it to be in any way comfortable.
Listen, definitely, Starker would be turning over his grave if I played that to him for sure. But so 1, 4, 3, and then up to a 2, just because I felt more secure on the 2 than a 3 or a 4 there. So 2, 1, shuffle a semitone, 1, 4, shuffle another 4. It just seemed to
nice.
I find that again the extensions. This sounds stupid. It's not my favourite way of playing. I find I don't play confidently in tune if I'm stretching in a moment like that. I'd rather make it a hand shift and have everything right there, like you said, kind of crab-like across there. It's for everybody's learning to try and figure out their own way. But I agree with what you said before, Ailbhe, about not taking somebody else's finger in and assuming that it's godlike answer.
Yeah.
But at the same
I'm
time,
not doing that.
Yeah, well,
Just making
it's
sure
kind of
that I
handy.
say, bin it.
Yeah, but
I love when I find a better solution. That's good.
But at the same time, it's important to give it a few goes to see if there's a new level of technique that you can just get straight away. It might have taken them a year to develop a technique where that becomes, and you've just got the fast passes straight to it, So definitely give it all a try first, and then if it doesn't stick, that's okay. It's not breaking any laws.
There's also, there actually is a lot of string crossing here where you'll find, things where you're going, and how to have a little bit of movement first without using, you can't use the whole arm all the time. Sorry, I'm just going to move over so you can see. So sometimes being able to actually use the fingers, what we were talking about before, Katie, that you always have control over, so just in that spot you mentioned, so quite often that's quite late by the time you get to the G string, and your even quality that you're really trying to find the whole way through isn't necessarily there. I found that fascinating, and it reminded me of Beethoven, the Last Sonata, where you have that fugue and you're just trying to play all of these similar sounding strokes, but you have to make them sound varied and interesting, or else if you keep it completely off the string, I think myself and Martin had an early conversation about this, Katie, already, where do you play it all off the string? Why is everyone playing it off the string entirely? And nor should you have to,
Right. I mean,
I find it baffling. There are no staccatos, but obviously there's some parts like that feel dancey, something that automatically makes me want to play it like that, but not the beginning, maybe. Why can't you play it legato? Do we have to do what everyone else does?
Just thinking, following on from Ailbhe there, it would be kind of dull to play everything all off the string all the time. I mean, there are guys out there for sure who can play this way faster than me, absolutely perfectly off the string, and that's great. I'm very happy for them. But at the same time, these are 40 beautiful pieces of work that somebody's taken the time to really shape nicely, and harmonically they're much more interesting than 90% of all the other studies available to us as cellists. You know, the violins they rule the roost in that department. But so maybe it's nice to take a bit more care with it and turn it into a piece of music rather than a competition.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I'm always a fan of that with studies.
I don't want it to sound like because I can't do it, and I can't do it, but that's not the point.
Would you
But
start
I think there's more music in it than just play Detache the whole way through. There's corners to be squeezed, you know, for sure.
Yeah.
This is it. We're using this to train ourselves to be the best musician that we can be. So why would you play studies with no musicality or musical line or direction? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, something we've discussed with a lot of the other studies is it's really training you how to know where to take time that's both like musical and technically possible, you know, because, you know, something I always learned when I was younger is you shouldn't take time because of a technical reason. But, you know, there's inherent, what you learn playing these is that there's inherent time. You're both laughing.
I only take time where it's difficult.
Well, you learn that there's an inherent, you know, there's moments that really beg for more time, and it has become a musical way just because it's a technical thing. Yeah. But I loved what you both said about varying the articulations, because that was really a big question I had. I mean, I realized kind of blindly, I was like, why if I played this all off the string? I mean, it's that whole thing again of like, oh, well, it's allegretto, and naturally, you know, this is just a thing that happens, but should we do it that way because it's natural? No, I mean, I think you're both right. Really, you know, listening to the harmonies and creating a variety of strokes is totally...
Exactly. There are too many juicy corners to enjoy. If you leave them detached, they just go past unannounced completely. And that's such a disappointment, because there are really nice corners in this, for sure. It wouldn't necessarily be a go-to pop study. Do you guys feel that? I mean, I hadn't done it before. It was...
Yeah, I haven't done this one either. Had you done it?
Me neither.
It's new to all of us.
Is that because teachers in general would avoid listening to people playing G flat major out of tune? Or is it because people don't think it's worth it? I do think it is worth it for that reason.
I think it's probably worth looking through and finding the easy ones and learning those first, isn't it? That's how I've gone through life. But I don't know if you guys have come across this, but some cello nerd upon high, even more nerdy than us, has done a PhD in Popper, and
wow.
he's written a list of order easy to difficult. Have you guys come across this?
There are a few lists made by different people online, depending, and it's interesting to see what they put into the difficult list, because it's not always the same.
When we talked initially about doing this project together today, of course, I didn't want to do the easiest one, but I certainly didn't want to do the hardest one either. So I sort of looked down this list, and number 30 is 19th or 20th on the list, so it's sort of middle ground. It's not super crazy, but it's also a respectable kind of level.
What if they got us the hardest one, just out of curiosity?
It says number 29.
29?
That's the hardest?
Yeah.
So it kind of depends what you find difficult. 29 is a lot of double stops.
Yeah.
And obviously pressure in the hand. And there's definitely some studies, I agree, where you just can't learn the skill in 1 week. You know, that some of those actually will take 6 months to build up a skill of you just edging up slowly and slowly. So some of these studies are going to be lifetime projects, as opposed to let's just learn them 1 week foolishly and decide to do it in a year.
Yeah, and he adds a little addendum at the end of this list, and it says, for reasons of repetition, you learn a similar skill in a different study. It says here, don't bother with 14, 25, 27, 29, 32, 37 or 40. I quite like number 40. I was disappointed by that, yeah. Anyway. So,
I hated 40.
Yeah. I was surprised how easily number 40 came together. It looks horrible on the page, but there's so much repetition, you can get to the end pretty fast, you know.
And very little pressure in the hand, so you don't have to actually the weight down. So for me, I was like, this is my study.
I was playing on a borrowed cello, so maybe that's my excuse.
I've got this beautiful new edition. Baron Writer, which way am I going? Like that.
We're about to get one of those.
It's so swanky. It's beautifully printed. I mean, it's like a dream for an OCD person like me to see that on the page. Because I find on the IMC, the number one, the one we know, the number 2 and the number 3 are so similar when they're so small, and it just could do without that. But this other edition is beautifully laid out. But also, this is total cello nerdtastic. It comes with a little textbook.
See, now that's...
Now this. I wish I'd had this one as a boy. I would have not learned quite the ones I did learn. But the interesting part here, of course, half of it's in German. Martin Rummel is the editor, a super duper cellist, a really top level guy. And there's like a chapter about each piece.
I love it.
But not only that, there's a list of pieces that each study is good for. This is just mental. So brilliant.
So, to be able to go, okay, I want to actually improve my bow stroke in this way, let me find the studies that will help me achieve that. Let's go through easy to hard. Like, if you had that kind of organisation, which is the point of this, right?
Yeah.
Then it means you can do anything. You want to be able to pull out your chops, going, this is the stroke, now I have it. Brilliant, that's proper. So
and listen, it's like, we're all busy people, you know, anything you can do to make things boom, you know, like easier to do. I think a lot of, you know, I'm sure you come across this, both of you, in your teaching, but people waste so much time practicing. That was a big Starker thing, you know, like just practice what you need, you know, practice the skills that you need and the things that you need to practice. So yeah, all this stuff makes it so much easier nowadays.
Especially in this study alone. So you've got the first line and then it's a repeat. You know, don't ever play through the repeat. Why would you do it? You don't need to spend your time practicing that until you're doing a playthrough later. You know, just don't play it. It's a total waste of your time. And this happens in the proper etudes a lot, where it's always going to have a repeat of the first section and etc. etc. So, you know, economize, I suppose.
Yeah, the one in this study is interesting because that literal repeat is right at the beginning. I mean, it's I find, you know, like when you're practicing in your run through, it's interesting in some of them, like how consistent you can be after you're tired, you know, because a lot of times the repeat happens later on. So
exactly.
I found that really big time in the last quarter of the second page, when you come back to the recap. The tuning of that bit was so difficult, you know, because you could feel it across the back of your hands. Just let's just get to the end, please. And the last two lines, the G flat E flat shift, which is the same like 4 lines before. What a piece of cake! But after you've played 2 pages, wow, that's so hard work.
We'll all see it later, right?
Yeah, totally. Let me just read you the pieces from this that Martin Rummel has said that we can benefit from for number 30. Actually, the other important information about this text is that he gives an approximate tempo and a practice tempo. Yeah, because none of mine in this IMC have a tempo marking on them, so it's kind of good and refreshing, because I've practiced this a bit, about 100, maybe a bit more, and then it says final speed 88. I was delighted with that I'd already got past what he thought was, so it gives you a bit of confidence this way as well. But the pieces are here. He says will benefit. It's the 6th Suite of Bach, the De Gamba sonatas, Brahms double, Janacek Fairy Tale, Martineau's first sonata. Have you guys played that at all?
Yeah, like I haven't performed it, but I've kind of taught a little bit of it. It's beautiful, actually.
I love Martineau, but I've never. It's quite a long sonata, I seem to recall. But next one is Schumann Concerto, of course. The third movement, particularly the coda, this is it, isn't it? Don Quixote, which is full of arpeggios as well. Vivaldi, all the sonatas. Webern sonata. Have you played that?
No.
I didn't know that either. And then something else. Excuse my pronunciation, but Vetam, Ballade Hebraic. I don't know that piece at all, but I think the one that he's forgotten to mention, Katie's already mentioned it, and Ailbhe by the boy. That's all the way through this. I mean, it's if you need to learn Rococo variations, you should have this one under your belt, for sure, just to get through that first variation. So,
true.
there we go.
Point. And if there's something that's going to make Rococo look easier, it might be this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, until you get to the last movement, and then there's nothing makes that
No.
look good.
I have reoccurring nightmares sometimes, stress dreams, and in this dream I'm always performing Rococo. I'm about to walk on stage and the orchestra starts, da da da, and I'm like, oh my god. That's always the dream.
That is
And-
so funny.
And what's the first note? Is it an E or is it an F? Oh my goodness, you know. But Ailbhe will tell you as well. I played Rococo a few times last year, and for the first time, you learn it as a grown-up, if you like. And she'll tell you how annoyed she was getting. We'd be texting like at 10 o'clock at night saying, "What tempo should the last movement be? Is this fast enough? Is 140? Is that okay? Is that respectable?" So.
And obviously it was glorious, so, you know.
Well, it was glorious in my mind, and there's no recording, so yes, it was. Yeah.
It was glorious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rococo, funny piece. It's just such an odd one, isn't it? Even
It's
everything
just,
about it is odd.
It's my favourite. It's just fantastic. It's not my
Yeah.
favourite.
It's your favourite?
That Donkey Shot.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's the most soul out of any of the pieces I've ever learned. It's really fantastic. But Rococo is, you know, when I was the year before I had to play it, I spent most of my time not practicing it, but with these headphones on, walking up and down the seafront, just listening to it, listening to Rostropovich and just soaking it in, because
Glorious
to die
theme,
for.
you know.
yeah,
So beautiful.
yeah.
The actual theme is
Yeah.
great. It's it's a funny one.
Yeah.
Th-
Nice
this- I'm
psychology
sure,
with this too.
I'm,
We're going
I'm,
to talk
I'm
about
sure you've heard.
things forever.
Yeah, totally. If we keep talking long enough, we'll never have to play it. So, an interesting corner on the first line, between these two different editions. Is it with a 4 or is it with a 3?
Four.
I found that the 3 with the extra shift in there just a nightmare. But at the same time, the 4, to get the 4 in tune, I found that my third finger was and then pointed the wrong way, and the third finger after the D flat afterwards was often very flat, and I really struggled to get past that. I find that very uncomfortable, and as we were talking about before, I made myself do it because I thought it was probably a skill I should try and get past, rather than coming up with a fix. But so
It's
when I
very
went through
unusual.
later,
And the same later with that grace note, but
Yeah.
you know,
that
the
grace
same
note
thing.
is-
You have to actually move your wrist to get the right amount of weight over that finger, but then you somehow have to make it back and be in the same tuning of the previous notes. So there's a lot going on there.
I found that bow change. You're talking about the fourth line down for the D flat A flat. Beyond
Exactly.
blah, blah, blah. I found that actually the hardest part was not the left hand, but was making the coordination of the right hand at just the right moment to catch enough of the grace note to even play it.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
then not
sometimes-
squeak on the top note.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not squeak. We'll see.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I do a squeak
Yeah.
there, but
Yeah.
it's it's a moment for a bit of time, a bit of artistic and technical.
And how do you guys find harmonics in this piece? I have to say I kind of I shied away from harmonics myself, but for that moment of glory for the harmonic sound, it meant I felt like I sacrificed something, the quality of the note afterwards. So I felt more secure going for the real note and then being happy on the way down.
Yeah, it is interesting.
I had done the harmonic just because it was what was printed and I hadn't thought
Yeah.
about it that much, but it's definitely worth a think that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Schumann concerto and stuff like that. There are a few harmonics there we can use, but there's time to sort of recover your hand position to make sure you can really progress confidently after that. There's no such buffer in this, is there? So,
Yeah.
did you
that
guys
sounds
did
beautiful.
you guys go for the Rococo
You
bows?
went for the thumb harmonic, definitely. Yours sounds much better, but I was too lazy to change my finger. So
Oh, you
I
played the
did
harmonic
do a
there as well.
harmonic there actually. I do a
Did you not?
shift actually.
oh, I did the harmonic
okay.
because C sharp. I was like, It's definitely not very in tune. You'll hear it. The harmonic is flat, and then
it's a nice melodic moment, isn't it? It almost feels like it needs to be looked after more.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try it twice. One of them doing a delicious on the second one, so we'll see how successful I am.
Sounds good. Woo!
Resonance.
I know,
Wow.
a little shaky.
Yeah, exactly. Can you spin it as well? Can you get the cello going round?
After this study,
I don't
absolutely.
know. A quaver rest might be a little short for a cello spin.
Well,
Yeah.
Classic
Yeah.
NCH cello spin.
go on then. Somebody show me the fourth figure here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that I did use that, and that's essentially what I'm doing. But you know,
that's what I'm doing too. Oh, sorry.
how do you come off in time to get yourself, away from the bow and pits and a beautiful sound and all in tune for the very last bits?
I don't know. I just do it by
Tricky.
natural animal
Natural
magnetism.
ability?
It just happens. But actually,
Because you're a legend.
I don't play it in time. I think
Yeah.
so. A much more
Little
graceful
natural.
finish. Yeah, instead of this kind
so
of.
you cheat, is what you're saying.
Yes.
What do you
Like
do,
a-
Ailbhe? What do you do?
No, I just was wondering what other people did, because of course you have to finish off the piece with a little bit of grace, so you slow it up. But I was trying to see, quick draw. Can you actually do it? I mean, it's ridiculous. I just think that's a good skill as well. How
Yep.
fast can you go? Because
Totally.
Right. Who's gonna go?
about being nervous.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Good.
Nice job.
Yay, Ailbhe!
Now,
That was
this time,
awesome.
can you play it again and balance a ball on your nose while you do it as well?
It's so good. This is so good for us because every time we play for someone new, like I just get ragingly nervous. It's great, and that's the kind of thing that we're missing this year, right? Is that it's so funny because when you're playing all the time, you don't get as nervous, but suddenly, you know, you're here and it's great because that's the feeling we need to remember.
It's the old studio class feeling. No, it's
That's
great.
Part of the fun.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Thanks.
You guys find the left hand felt in the last 2 or 3 lines?
Oh yeah, it was exhausting.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's the sort of piece where you think you practiced it and the last 3 or 4 lines, piece of cake, you know, in some ways, and you can play it a million times, and then you practice maybe from the top of the second page to the end, yeah, it's still good, and then maybe you're going to practice from N and G chord, the last 3 lines of the first page, get to the end, yeah, still good. Then do the playthrough from the beginning, and the left hand on the last 2 lines is like, please stop, just stop playing, stop playing. You know, why is
I
that?
know.
This will make you laugh. I found myself on the second line getting faster and faster. So, when I was practicing, just getting faster and faster every time that repetition came round, and I realised yesterday that the clock in this room ticks so loudly. I was
Oh my gosh.
subconsciously trying to get to 120. You know,
That is so
no wonder.
funny.
I mean, so I put the clock in the drawer on the sideboard, and I couldn't hear it anymore, and everything just felt much more stable. Isn't that weird? I've never noticed that before in my practice.
You'd have to only play pieces in 120 from now on.
I know.
Everything has to be some relation. It's so funny.
Yeah, the swan at 120. You know, there you go. Good.
All right, yay! Great to see you guys.
Bye. 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 Bye.